have month-one retention that's better than ChatGPT's month-one retention.
Anton Osika, he is the co-founder of Lovable.dev.
Fastest growing company in Europe. What a title.
Growth starts ramping up after we launch, growing 1 million ARR per week at some point, and that just keeps accelerating. The most important thing is talent and culture, and there's more raw available talent in Europe.
When a competitor has a lot of money, do you have to raise too? Ready to go? Anton, fastest growing company in Europe. What a title. But first, thank you so much for joining me today, man.
Thank you, Harry. It's always fun to talk to you.
That is very, very kind of you. It's the British accent. But I want to start actually pre-Lovable. And I spoke to a couple of your investors in your first company, Depict. And so I just want to start there. What are your biggest takeaways from Depict that shaped how you think about Lovable?
We scaled super fast at Depict as well. And we did like moving just very fast, scrappy. We did that. We nailed that really well. I think we did really well on this high potential talent as well. Quite junior, but high potential talent. You can see that from all the companies coming out from Depict. The Depict mafia is absolutely real. But what I think we did, what works in the beginning is to say yes onto a lot of opportunities and try out what works. Once you become more people and you have to follow up and maintain everything that you start, you have to be much more focused. So we said yes to too many things at Depict, and we didn't like take this one thing that we could do 10 times better than anyone else. And then as the economics macro-wise turned worse, we didn't continue the scaling trajectory that we were on initially.
I was just reading an article actually with Paul Buchheit, the founder of Gmail, and he said you need 3 great features in a product, and it's really that simple, and make them really, really great. Do you agree with that product simplicity towards feature depth?
Yeah, I think just on a product level, you should say no to as many things as possible and make it more of like an Apple feeling. The things you do them superb.
Okay, and so we have, hey, don't say yes to everything. Is there anything else which you did or didn't do that really shaped how you think about the early days of Lovable?
No, I think moving fast and I would say talent is the most important thing, and culture, how you work together every day, how people interact and collaborate quickly. Those are the 2 most important things for almost any company.
Okay, let's just unpack talent, because it's been a cool... I spoke to Frederick at Creandum before this, and he said we had to chat about this too. You favor talent over experience, which sounds kind of obvious. Respectfully, you're going to go for like an experienced, untalented person. But how do you think about your hiring lessons around experience versus talent?
So I think experience can be a negative thing in some cases. You often want people who are super ambitious, they have a lot to prove, and they are more open-minded towards how you should work together in a team. I mean, for many roles, I think junior talent is first of all super easy to get them into the company. They're not already committed to many their projects. The best people that you can hire at a young age, they would go on and become founders, and then you can't hire them anymore, right? So that's why junior people are often quite good.
Will you hire them if they haven't done what you're hiring them to do before? The benefits often of hiring someone experienced is, well, I can see they've been at X company for 4 years. They can do that at my company. Will you hire someone who hasn't done what you're asking them to do before?
In most cases, yes. But I mean, if it's engineering, you have to know software engineering, of course. And for some roles, you definitely want in that domain someone with a lot of experience, like who can coach and who can tell the more junior people what great looks like.
These are going to sound like strange questions, but you mentioned the word ambition there. Did you always know that you would be successful? When you were younger building, did you always think, I will be successful in something that I do?
No, I don't think so. I was always frustrated with how people around me didn't understand things as quickly as me. It felt like, and then after at some point, I felt like, well, sometimes it's me um, being too naive. That's something I learned over time. But many of the like truths about what's going to happen in the future I have a very good track record on, and I think that's one of the superpowers that have made me successful. So I felt I had that superpower. I didn't know it would translate into building something successfully.
How did you first make money? What was your first entrepreneurial thing, Anton?
Ooh, I think so. I always nerded out with kind of computers and setting up our like LAN parties when I was a kid and so on. And so I noticed that all neighbors and like friends or families, they had the computers and they had some issue, and then they wanted my help. And many of them wanted to pay me afterwards. So that became a bit of a side hustle when I was a young teenager.
Did you do gaming when you were younger?
Yeah.
You're like I'm so sorry to be rude, but you're like the easiest like archetype because you fit like all the characteristics of like successful founders that I have on the show. It's like number one, made money early. Number two, excel in gaming. Both very, very clear archetypes. I want to move to Lovable. So GPT Engineer starts as a side project. Where does the idea come from? We've left Depict. GPT Engineer starts as a side project. Where does the idea come from?
This was the spring after ChatGPT came out, and I've been playing with the precursors of that as well. And I from already like a year before then, I felt there's a massive wave coming from scaling up these models with more data, and the Pict is not set up for currently not set up for leveraging that. After I was actually traveling with my now wife as our engagement trip, and when you're traveling, I get extra creative, and I don't think there was anyone who was talking about like AI agents at the time, but during those like sitting on an airplane, I started writing a lot of like, okay, shit, you should hook them up and make you basically put the large language model in a for loop, and then you can have it do a lot of agentic things. And then when I'm back in Sweden, I'm like, okay, where do I apply this? Obviously on software engineering. And I've been talking to people about this, and I felt no one was really sufficiently imaginative to what I was thinking about. And I had to like prove a point in that this is already now with the current the first versions of ChatGPT APIs, you can build an agent that writes code. And then I put together that I drank a lot of coffee, and then I just crammed away, and I got the first version that really impressed people. You create a snake game, and then you get a running snake game on your computer. So that was the first version of what we're building now.
How long did it take you to build V1 with that caffeinated session?
I think there was like one main weekend, and then a bit of a polish over with a few hours here and there on 2 weekends after that.
What are the biggest lessons or advice from building many different V1s for many founders that are listening?
It depends what you're building for. For most like our first-time founders, I would really focus on the user and the user problem, and say like, how can I get one person to love what I'm building in this V1? That's my general advice. I didn't do that. I just put out a video on Twitter, and it got dozens of academic references and millions of people using it.
So take me to that. So we have this weekend, we release the product. What happens then, dude?
Yeah, so it wasn't clear to me that I would build a business on this at all. I thought it was fun that there was and this was an open source project. So I just started nourishing like a community that went on to work on this open source project. While I went to my co-founder and said like, okay, so this thing is absolutely huge. I've been thinking of doing something else, to be honest. And here's this is a bit of a wake-up call for me that it might be time to find a good replacement for me as a CTO at the Pict. That's what happened next. And then within a few months passed.
And so a few months pass, the community continues to grow. What happens then?
No, but I figure out a good replacement for me. I decide I want to have a great co-founder that I can have as like my partner in crime here. And there was a guy who is the most super efficient, zero fluff and bullshit, and engineer and entrepreneur. So he had sold a company previously that I wanted to work with, and I biked to his apartment and said, "Hey, let's take a walk and plan the future." So I got him on board, and then we started building and created the first version of what became Lovable.
Okay, so we're building the first version of Lovable. You've got your co-founder. Talk to me about that time. When did we release, and how did the official release go with Lovable as a product and company?
So the launch of Lovable, like the product, it was 1 year after we started building, and in the meantime, we launched like waitlisted preview versions called GPT Engineer app. That was, I mean, that's the getting user feedback cycle and building up, I guess, some excitement about what we were working on and employer branding as well. And the first versions, I think they were very good. They were good. They were not very good, and we had some people really liking it, but the aha moments didn't click for sufficiently many people. Like, okay, this is how I get real value from this. When we went on to iterate over the coming year, we packaged together all of these things so that you can ask today, Lovable, I want to build basically a SaaS business, and then people have built their entire SaaS companies and made money by just prompting our AI.
I just want to break down a couple of different things that you said there. You mentioned the waitlist. Do you have any big lessons or advice on how to do a waitlist strategy well?
I think the waitlists are useful in that you can control exactly how many people you want to get on board and take user interviews with. So I think that's just get sufficiently many people on the waitlist, find a good way to qualify who you want to talk to. Like you probably have a different hypothesis on who you should talk to, who you're going to sell into, who has the most value from your product, and then qualify only those and talk to them.
When you do the user interviews and user feedback sessions, what are your big lessons or piece of advice on how to do them well? What questions are good? What questions are bad? Any lessons?
So I think for us there are two different type of user interviews. We had this type where we just see them use the product and see like where do they understand the product, and so that's more of a user experience interview. And the other one is to understand, like, if they have to just try the product a bit, we ask them, hey, okay, so you try the product a bit, why are you even interested in this? And ask them like what problems they're facing in their business. Try to identify what's the biggest pain point that they're actually looking to solve. It might be, oh, I want to get more customers, and I think I can get more customers if I can show to my customers that I can get the first version out with AI more quickly. So those type of questions.
How does it change the structure of teams? When you look at teams today, you have obviously software engineers, you have designers, you have developers, you have front end, you have back end. How does it change the structure of teams themselves?
Harry, if you want to create a personal website for you, it's super productive. You can do it. You don't have a team. It's just you. You just create it with AI. If you want to ship the first version of your SaaS and start making money, it's all you. It's not a team. Like a team just slows you down. Maybe you get some inputs from a designer. Like how does this? How do you think it should look, and so on. But once you have existing software with users, and then you want to iterate and change that software, AI might absolutely bring down, kind of mess up your entire code base. AI might mess up your code base. So then you would want to work with a software engineer that knows how to have quality and consistently keep quality in the product.
You mentioned like people took a bit of time to find their aha moment. How important is the time to aha moment?
I think it's very important. And it's funny because you ask me this question, and I think we are very bad at making the time to aha moment super short. I think we could like double our conversion rates if we become better at like speed to aha moment. But I can say with something we're doing. Let me take credit for something. When you come to Lovable, you just see a prompt box. It's very inviting. Instead of getting to a landing page, you see a prompt box. And then for the ones that do enter a prompt box, you get quite a quick aha of the first aha moment. And there has to be many aha moments in Lovable. It's quite a complex. A software engineer is a very complex feature, but that we are doing well, and that's what I would recommend. Just give the user something interactive with instant reward.
You mentioned there the prompt box itself. I've had many guests on the show say before that almost the biggest sin that ChatGPT did was make chat the default UI for a future of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, bluntly, chat and the prompting that we have today in Lovable and many other products is the right default UI for an age of AI?
I think yes. Prompting you can do almost anything with prompting and explaining your thoughts in written form. It's also easy to implement and iterate on, but it's going to get more advanced over time with not just prompting.
I love the way you took a deep breath there. It's like, this is a weighty question.
I'm thinking about it a lot. I mean, you're building the interface for creating software, and no one knows what that interface is going to look like. But the prompting, yes, I think it remains.
But I'm kind of going chronologically through the story because it's an amazing story. You rejected YC at some point.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Why did you reject YC?
We felt that at best, YC would be a lot of dilution and some acceleration, but a lot of dilution and some acceleration. And at worst, it would be a distraction to go through SF and go through all of these like fun things that happen when you go to YC. And we just took some funding instead and built focus on talent.
The seed round. When does the seed round come? Does that come post-launch or pre-launch?
So that comes before we launch the first waitlist of our product even.
Okay, how did that seed round go? So before you've launched the waitlist of the product, how did that round go? How did it come to be?
Yeah, so I have this advice that I've always gone by, which is to work with investors that you like. And I had some people that I know from before that I just think are amazing people that I want to have by my side if things go sour, if things go well. And I spoke to a few. I kept it very, very brief. I got like a preemptive offer, and I said, "Yeah, let's do it."
I love it. How big was this round?
So we took 3 million, and then we added on. I got the advice to say like, yeah, just to get a lot of cash because you never know what happens in the markets. So we raised quite a large pre-seed round with and up to almost $8 million.
Would you advise founders to raise quite large pre-seed rounds if they can? If the money's on the table, do you say take it?
Depends on how you want to operate. Like if you like talking to investors, which at the time I was like, no, I just want to build the technology. Then I answer, sure, raise a big pre-seed so you get time to figure things out. If you like talking to investors, which I think you should. If you think it's interesting to just talk to a lot of interesting people who care about understanding the market, then I would go raise more iteratively, smaller rounds.
We're seeing a lot of founders today be immensely dilution sensitive from day one in a way that they haven't been before. Like 10% is like the max they're willing to give up on a round. How did you think about dilution sensitivity?
Here again, like I have a very wise person who was like, no, dilution doesn't matter so much. It's all about the size of the pie. And I think I was both affected by that advice as well as my like, no, minimize dilution. This is my life's work. So that's mainly how I think about it now.
So we now raise this round. We have the wait list. We're skipping a little bit. Take me to go live day. When does that happen? And how does go live go?
We go live with Lovable the 21st of November last year.
21st of November last year? Shit. Yeah. That was only 4 months ago.
Yes, 4 months ago.
Isn't it nuts how much like life changes in 4 months?
It's true. It can change really fast. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So November 2024, you launch. From day one, is it just nuts? How does it go?
So, I mean, we had paying users on like an earlier version that was called something else. And then our launch, I think it wasn't one of these like wow launches. I think we could have gotten like 10 times more press on the launch, 100%. But people start noticing like, whoa, this is really good. And we continue to quickly improve things in the products, ship things very rapidly. So it ramps, like growth starts ramping up after we launch. And we were like, wow, we're growing 1 million ARR per week at some point. And that just keeps going, accelerating through. That was in December, and then it just keeps accelerating. We it was a bit on the technical side. It was a bit frustrating because we have a lot of scaling issues that we run into, and the team is like, okay, we can continue to patch this, but they say like let's rewrite everything while we're seeing this explosive growth, and there's so many quick fixes that we want to do on the product side.
So you rewrote it ASAP and stabilized it then?
Yeah, so it took a bit more than eight weeks. I mean, it's not completely done to date, but that we took 8 weeks, and then now we're shipping faster.
Can I ask you, you mentioned that like 1 million ARR a week. How much are you growing now a week?
2 million ARR per week.
2 million a week now?
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny for me, dude, because like when you live in a world of venture, you don't kind of get this, I don't think, and I don't mean that rudely to you, but like your companies go from like 1 to 4 in a year, and that's like fucking A. 4x in a year, amazing. That would be good. And then you're like growing 2 million ARR in a week. Does that sink in? Like, do you know how nuts that is?
No, I guess no. I mean, a lot of things the last few weeks have just blunted me, and I'm just focused on all the things that we have to fix and like improve, and that's all I think about.
What do you think are the most common ways or methods that companies' development process slows down? For founders listening, what should they watch out for that often happens?
What makes product development slower is usually that you have a complex product and you have a lot of requirements on your product. So you said earlier, Harry, that you have three things that are good in your product. I think that's generally a very wise thing to do.
Simplicity leads to product direction, knowing where you're going and what you're working on.
Yeah.
When you look back since the start of Lovable, where from a product perspective did you invest and spend time where with the benefit of hindsight you shouldn't have done?
I think at Lovable we thought a lot about the community and like community features inside of the product, and that I think that could have made a lot of sense if we had seen slower growth. But now that it's just like growth is not something not a concern. You don't need community features to power growth. So that I think that was pretty much waste of effort.
Do you agree with the sentiment, build it and they will come? The growth has been amazing. From day one, it feels like since GPT Engineer even, people have just kind of come for the product because it's been amazing and different. Do you believe build it and they will come actually does stand true today?
If you have a very strong vision of where there is untapped potential, if you really know that deep down and you have a track record of showing that, then build it and they will come is going to work. And you also have the runway, your personal like energy runway and so on to really make it work and make them come. But in most cases, yeah, that is too risky. It's too risky to just build it and they will come. And you can build it and make them come or try to make them come at the same time. And that's much lower risk.
You said there about energy, and it reminded me of a statement that Nick at Revolut said to me in a show when he was talking about his investing. And he said the most successful founders that he invests in are between 30 and 35. They don't have the naivety of the incredibly young founders, but they don't have the bluntly tiredness in some ways, or you have more energy when you're younger, of older founders. How do you think about that given your age today?
I think energy is super important, and I think the naivety is a benefit often. But I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I was the first time manager as well at the Picked.
What was the biggest mistake you made?
Thinking that we should change the culture and become more of a scale up something slow moving or like more management layers when we became 40 people. That was the biggest mistake I did.
Why did you think that?
That was, I mean, my co-founder and other senior people we spoke to said like, oh, now you have to hire executives and so on. And that was a bad idea. I think.
Okay, and so did you start hiring executives?
Pretty much, yeah. Or no,
Okay.
yeah, we did.
And then they don't work?
One person I hired didn't work out, which slowed me down and they kind of set us back a lot.
And so when you think about that, what would your advice be to other founders? Don't believe the bullshit. You can scale way longer without execs?
Many founders hire more mercenary style, maybe like skilled people, but just like they are running in their lane. I hire generalists and I try to empower them as much as possible. And if you have a lot of super smart generalists that you're doing a lot of smart like new initiatives and so on, adding executives on top of them is high risk and like reward is questionable. It's at some point, of course, it makes sense.
Does culture break at any point when you're scaling user base so fast, you're scaling revenue so fast?
I mean, usually I think it does, yes, or it changes, it evolves. This is something I'm very mindful about, and why I'm so scared of adding too many heads.
What are you worried about?
The most important thing for everyone at our company, which I talk about, is to role model how much you care about the product, the users, the team, how well the team works. Then role model and make sure other people care as much as you, and that comes from a feeling of ownership of the culture and the team. If you're a lot of people, that gets diluted typically. So that's what breaks, or that's what's harder.
Okay, so we have the team scaling, we have user base, we have revenue scaling. We're making actually a lot of money at this point. Why raise a Series A?
I just had some scheduled check-ins with investors, and there was this one guy and his team that had like obsessed about Lovable for the last few months. And they're here in Fredrik. He's here in Stockholm at Creandum, and he just gives an amazing impression on me. And I'm like, okay, I can wait, because I know it's very clear to me that this is just the beginning, and could raise it later, but we can accelerate by adding an investor that's a partner in helping to find more amazing people in. Just as a sounding board. Fredrik helped to grow Spotify from nothing, and we decided to raise a small round.
Okay, so you decide to raise a small round. I have to ask this. You have many well-funded competitors in the US. I think it was Neil Murray that said you put like We're Devon that actually works from like very early on, which I thought was bold. When a competitor has a lot of money, do you have to raise too?
I don't think so, no. I mean, we could bootstrap. Like you can bootstrap most things, so you never have to raise.
But they can outspend you on talent, on customers, on marketing. No?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid of any of those. If being outspent on any of those, I think the only thing that matters is execution. So if you can outperform your execution, then I'm scared.
Where could you improve your execution today? We spoke about speed of shipping, amazing. Culture's great. The talent's phenomenal. Where would you say execution-wise you could improve?
I think you can always improve on like how the decision loop, on how fast you take decisions, and you communicate those decisions so that everyone is really on the same page. That's how you do it.
How do you make them today? How could it be improved?
I think it's about doing fewer. I think we could do fewer things as well at Lovable. Like there's a lot of people with great ideas that each idea in isolation is great, but you can only have so many. You should only execute on so many at the same time.
We mentioned the team and the culture. And we mentioned Fredrik there. You've been pretty ardent around building in Europe, keeping the team in Europe, being a European company, a lot of people say to me, by staying in Europe, you are deliberately not doing what is best for your career. If you were in the Valley, you would be more successful. What is your response to them?
The most important thing is talent and culture, and it's more raw. There's more raw available talent in Europe. The culture isn't on the US has more culture that fits succeeding as a startup. I have to say, per default. So
what specifically do you think it is about that culture?
So it's about the default of thinking big and being super ambitious and being very committed to making things work. That in Europe, people are more like about living a balanced life, and we're kind of taught that we should. In Sweden, we talk about the law of Jante, which is that you should be better than others.
Okay, yes, this concerns me. So how do you respond to people who say you would be more successful if you're in the Valley?
We would be successful. So if you're a founder, I think you have more free entropy of talent to use and channel into something successful. But there are of course many benefits from being in the Valley. I think it's a bit of playing on hard mode here from Europe, and I get excited about playing on hard mode and showing that you can create the category defining company, which is lovable in our case, from Europe.
Are you positive about Europe moving forwards? We are in a doom loop around Europe, which we both disagree with and hate. Are you positive, and what guides your thinking?
Yeah, I'm super positive. I think there is a strong underdog mentality among all of us founders now, which is usually a winning concept to feel like the underdog and wanting to prove others wrong.
I also think there's incredible superpowers in using the arbitrage pricing of incredible engineers in Europe and selling into the US. You can build huge companies selling into the US from Europe. Doesn't mean you can't sell into the US just because you're a European company.
True. No, it's a very global market.
Dude, I've got some questions which are a little bit spicier, but I have to ask them, okay? So a spicier one is, if one were to criticize Lovable, they would say, amazing, God, look at the revenue growth, look at the user growth, but is this like AI sugar revenue? In other words, it's not sustainable and it will churn very quickly. How do you respond to it's not really real sustainable revenue and it's not sticky?
We have month one retention that's better than ChatGPT's month one retention on paying customers. And so it's about 85%. And that is just going up. Of course, there's a lot of things to be desired when you were working with an AI system. There's a fraction of people, some people that come in and they just flip up their credit card because they want to try, they want to learn, which is a rational thing to do. And then they know that they are going to stop using it they almost know. So we have a fraction of users who are like those people.
Wow. 85% month one.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great because you're also too early to have month 6. What could you do today to increase retention most significantly?
The easiest thing we can do is to give more of the important aha moments to ensure that all of our users get more of the important aha moments on how to use the product.
I don't really respectfully agree or get you, because you give prompts under the prompt box. So you say build me a SaaS app or build me a dog website or whatever the prompt is. Dude, all you need to do is click it and you see the code being written and then you see it being created. The aha moment is pretty obvious, no?
So there are many aha moments or education moments to get the most value, get the full value out of using it. And the most important of those are with regards to when you feel like you're getting stuck and the AI doesn't understand you. And there are many things in how to get around that you can pick up as a user. It is about how you prompt. It's about how to understand what doesn't work and explain, or to explain clearly what the problems you're seeing, what you find could be the problem when you're building a more complex feature. And it's about that you can actually onboard an engineer to do small changes to the code base. Like those are things our users should know, and not everyone knows them.
What's your North Star metric today? If you have one metric
Yeah.
on the TV for the whole team to focus on, what is it?
It's the number of users that go all the way to getting like users on what they built, getting something hosted with users on what they built. That's what we focus on.
What's the amount today?
So we have almost 40,000 paying users, and then that's the proxy for that.
Wow. 40,000 paying users. Shit. Okay. Do you care about the time it takes to go from start to website created or not?
We care, but I have to say, Harry, like these things about the onboarding and how much we can improve is not something that we have had the focus on. Like we were just making the core AI parts better. That's what we focus on.
Okay, so you say about making the core AI parts better.
Yeah.
Amazing. People also say, wrappers on top of other people's models. Why are they wrong with that assumption?
I mean, it's very easy to create a cool demo with just a wrapper. It's super easy to make a cool demo with just a wrapper. The hard part is to get close to 100%. You get what you're asking for, and there's a lot of small details in making that work. There's a lot of small details, and there's a chain of large language model API calls and other algorithms that run, and that chain is like you can continue to optimize that for years without reaching perfection.
Whose models do you sit on top of today?
We use all of OpenAI's models, Google Gemini, and the main workhorse is Anthropic's Claude model for writing the code.
I was going to have this in a quick fire, but I have to ask it now. You've got Anthropic at 60 billion, you've got OpenAI at 300, or you've got Grok at 50. Okay. Which do you buy and which do you sell?
Okay, so I think I care about the best talent here, and I feel like Elon is very good at talent. So I would buy Grok. I think they're also very ruthless in like finding business opportunities. We'll see about that, but I feel like they could be good at that. Even though Anthropic is my favorite, I love the culture and I love the leadership there. And I will short OpenAI because they're like have been very good in the scrappy phase, but they haven't proven that they can have a clear product direction and focus now over the last year.
So I would push, it's a Sunday, we're allowed to be a little bit more casual. I would push back on you and go, the two biggest things that matter in this next wave is brand, recognition on the consumer side, and it's consumer-facing front-end products. And when you look at brand, everyone's mother knows ChatGPT. They don't even know OpenAI, but they know ChatGPT. And then on the consumer product side, respectfully, they're way ahead of anyone else.
That's true.
Am I wrong?
I just think we're still early in the days of AI. And if you look at the enterprise revenue, like Anthropic is almost caught up to OpenAI from nothing, from being absolutely dominated. And I don't know what Grok is going to do here, but I expect them to be having like OpenAI lost all their best talent to Anthropic. And I think Grok might be able to pull something off here.
I spoke to a very wise friend of mine before this, and they said that the biggest concern that I have is that open source or megacorps of the world with massive distribution advantages come in and win the market. How do you think about that? And is that a concern?
The big megacorps, they move very slowly in many domains. So they're never going to, in many years, they're not going to have the best product on the market. There are distribution advantages for some of these megacorps, and that's like the marketing and distribution is what I'm more concerned about. But overall, it's going to be like a growing market where you can easily, as a startup, be best positioned for some parts of the market.
One thing that's going to be a real shift, I imagine, that you have to face is the shift from PLG and kind of prosumer to enterprise. How do you think about that shift? And is that just not a concern given the speed of revenue ramp? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if we would do enterprise, I would want to do that really well. So we're holding off with doing enterprise for now. We're holding off, and our goal. You asked about the North Star metric. What we want to have is we want to be the best place for builders to create products and get get a million of the most talented builders on Lovable. And if we succeed in that, that's a great segue into many other areas, including enterprise.
When you look at Shopify, what do you learn from them blazing a trail in the way they have done as efficiently as they have done?
I'd love to hear from you, Harry. What are you most impressed by with Shopify?
Honestly, I would say it's their narrative around everyone being an entrepreneur. I think Harley's a phenomenal communicator and storyteller at bringing very real businesses to life, and how Shopify's changed their processes, their sales, and really made an impact. And I love Toby, and I think he's obviously a brilliant technologist, but I think without Harley's storytelling, narrative, entrepreneurial vibes to life, it would be a different company. So I would learn from that a lot in terms of how to tell your customers stories.
Yeah, no, totally. I think Shopify has been able to execute on many things, and they just created a good package. They've iterated fast. That's my impression. They've iterated fast on serving all the needs for building your e-commerce, and I think this velocity was the most important thing for building the best product.
When we look forward, dude, what would you most like to build in the product, but for whatever reason you cannot?
What would that reason be? I think I can build anything into the product.
Really? Like team would block you, that prioritization, not the right time.
Okay, so something that we have to say no to right now. Yeah. So I'd love to build in a way for founders to get everything you get out of Y Combinator into Lovable. So that includes like some marketing infrastructure. Y Combinator has that, the entire playbook. And going above that, and even saying like, oh, here's your incorporated Delaware C company, your Stripe setup. You just have to focus on the product and talking to users and creating content for marketing.
When you look at partnerships today, APIs that we have today into the different providers, that's quite a real and possible product.
Yes, it's on the roadmap.
Wow. Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, YC are going to love you after this show. Final one. When we look forward, dude, what concerns you most if you had to choose? Was it be regulatory challenges, competition, or hype cycles?
I think if some competitor is super, super good at marketing, that would concern me.
How important is brand?
I think brand is mainly the outcome of your product. There's other factors too. And then, so, I mean, product is the important thing. And then good product plus awareness just creates brand. That's I think, what's sufficient. So it's more of a downstream effect of something else.
Dude,
but then it is important.
When you're doing 2 million a week in additional ARR, you're going to have more and more investors want to give you money. How do you think about that? And what makes it worth it to take versus this is a distraction, get out of my face?
It's a distraction. I think it might make it worth it. It will make it worth it when we know exactly how we want to spend the money, or it's a partner we really want to work with, and it's like terms where we would never regret saying yes to them.
What, if done, would be a massive needle mover for the company?
1 or 2 more of the perfect technical product hires.
Dude, I could talk to you all day. I want to move into a quick fire round. So I say a short statement, you give me your thoughts. So what do you believe that most around you disbelieve?
I think we have models today that are really smart. I think that's where people don't agree with me. They're smarter than humans, but they don't have memory in the same extent as we do. They don't have context.
How fast will we ramp context and memory given scaling today?
It's the ramp. What you need to ramp is to decide what, like, the process for storing memory, I think, is what you have to ramp, and it has to store all of these things. Like my conversation with Harry has to be stored somehow into the AI system, and all like my childhood almost has to be stored as well. I don't know; it's going to take years.
You can buy and hold one public stock for the next 10 years. Which one do you buy and hold?
Some talent play. Maybe it would. And what comes to mind is Tesla. They're also interestingly positioned outside of software.
Wow. Okay. What's the most important trait in a founder that no one talks about?
Okay. I think great judgment people probably talk about, but I think I like people who see potential in people, and it's like, okay, this person can become amazing, and the judgment in picking talent like that.
What's your biggest weakness as CEO today?
I'm not as good as multitasking as I would like to be.
If Lovable failed tomorrow, what would be the reason? Like investors write a pre-mortem, which is like a reason why something doesn't work. What is that?
We lose momentum and excitement, and that's what fuels us today, right? All the excitement and the momentum.
What have you changed your mind on in the last 12 months?
You don't need to be attached to one foundation model provider. They're all going to be amazing. You don't need to. There's not going to be one winner here.
Are we seeing foundation models be completely commoditized?
Yes.
We won't see specializations like we do today. I know Claude is better for code and engineering. Yeah. Do you think that will really equalize?
Yeah.
I love the Swedes. Fucking one-word answers. What's your favorite failure?
I think.
So when I was 17, I failed my exams at school, Anton. I failed them badly. Yeah, like D's across the board. And I looked at myself and I was like, I'm either going to work behind a bar or I can make something of my life. Mm-hmm. And I chose to work harder than ever and make something of my life. That is my favorite failure.
I think my favorite failure, I didn't, the pick didn't work out, so I could do more things.
What concerns you most in the world today?
I think that leadership in the world today, I'd love the whole leadership to be true idealists and not like function of circumstances and people to please, and be much more open-minded to people who disagree with them, and super intelligent as well. But leadership in the world today are usually like a bit corrupted and narrow-minded. And that's what concerns me.
Do you think they would say you're naive?
I want to be naive.
To the challenges of leadership, to the challenges of having a voter population, you sometimes have to be certain ways.
I think we used to have like better presidents and leaderships throughout the last century. So no, I don't think I'm too naive, but I'm definitely always a bit naive.
I totally agree with you. I think the state of leadership today is woeful. Penultimate one, what's your biggest short in the public markets?
I'm not so well read on the public market. It would be a SaaS company. It would be like a SaaS company that has a per seat pricing where their ICP is going to be replaced by AI SaaS that just replaces the employees. So the number of seats goes down.
What's the future of pricing in an AI world?
Yeah, I think it depends on how defensible your business is. If you're selling to like enterprises that never change SaaS software, you should try to make some value-based pricing. Yeah, I don't know how you get to the good value-based pricing, but I would do something like that. Otherwise, I think you should don't innovate too much on pricing. Do whatever works today.
I love the facial expressions. My final one, I like optimism, and I think we need more of it in the world. I'm incredibly excited for the next decade because I think we'll find cures to, my mother's got multiple sclerosis, which is a horrible disease. I think we'll find cures to diseases that we really didn't think possible before. What excites you most about the next decade that we have coming?
I think it's that AI is hopefully going to make us humans understand each other better and be better at doing win-win, playing win-win, and that would be awesome. I'm excited about that. So like our leadership actually being enhanced by super intelligent AI.
Anton, listen, dude, I've so enjoyed doing this. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for inspiring a generation of European entrepreneurs that they can build unbelievable businesses in Europe.
Thank you, Harry. It was super fun.